This is Bia Labate, Executive Director of Chacruna, and we're here in New York City from Horizons, a mega cool conference on psychedelics in New York City. We are in Cooper Union. You can watch out this, marvelous city, capital, cosmopolitan center of the world, full of the newest stuff going on, and I'm here to blog alive, coming out from this great, amazing lecture that Dr. Monnica Williams has just given to us. I've already spoken to her here before, so thanks for coming, Monnica.
Thank you. It's an honor and privilege to be speaking with you again.
Can you tell the folks just a general idea about what was your talk about?
Yes, so my talk was about race-based trauma and the challenge and promise of MDMA psychotherapy for PTSD in people of color.
So you think that we can really heal such complex issue like racism with psychedelics?
Well, I think psychedelics can be a tool in helping to heal racism. I don't think psychedelics is going to do the trick on their own. Otherwise, that auditorium wouldn't have been as white as it is, would it have been?
Yeah, well, I'm particularly interested today in one of the parts of your talk that you just mentioned kind of briefly, and I want to sort of zoom out from that because it has to do with our interests in Chacruna. We're organizing a forum called Women and Psychedelics. This forum will happen November 19 in CIIS in San Francisco in the Bay Area. I invite all of you to come. It's a whole day. We have 2 panels and 1 keynote presentation. And Dr. Williams was telling us that a lot of the issues that, are dear to the psychedelic feminists are in fact very white. And that was a big, alert and red flag to me. And I want to know why. What do you mean by that?
Right. Well, so if you look at the priorities of some of the feminist organizations, for example, the National Organization of Women, they have their priorities listed. You can go to their website and see what their priorities are. And these priorities are not necessarily my priorities, nor are they the priorities of other African American women that I know. So what it really tells me is that we don't have a seat at the table, and we're not there helping to shape the priorities. Rather, these priorities are being put on us, and then they go out there and say, this is what women want. And it's like, well, that's not our voice. I didn't agree to that. That's not what I want.
Can you perhaps give us some kind of example for people to sort of connect to what you're saying concretely? Does anything occur to you that you could quote as examples of parts of the agenda that don't resonate a lot with people of color, women of color?
Right. Well, for one, there's a whole reproductive rights agenda for which the legal abortion is the centerpiece of that agenda. And when it comes to the reproductive rights of black women, well, we have different issues. For one, we want people to stop sterilizing us without our consent. We don't want to be judged or patronized if we decide to have children. And then if we do have an abortion, we want to know that not only is that going to be safe, but if there's a guy in there butchering black people right and left, that women everywhere will stand up and condemn that instead of try to sweep that under the rug. That happened with Dr. Kermit Gosnell. He actually ran an abortion mill in Pennsylvania, just a block away from where I taught as an instructor in Philly at Penn. I had no idea that was going on there, that these black women were getting such awful treatment. They were dying. This was being reported to the authorities. Nobody investigated that for 10 years because nobody cared that black women were dying. And instead, we see organizations like the National Organization for Women saying, oh, well, this shows that we need to keep abortion legal because otherwise it's going to go back like that for everyone. It's like, no, it's already like that for us. Come on, stand up and take a look at what's happening to black women right now. We need to be able to get medical care and have it be safe across the board. We have infant mortality rates double that of white women, and we have maternal mortality almost 4 times that of white women. Why is nobody who claims to be a feminist standing up for us? Why is nothing being done about this problem?
Go, Monnica. Something is being done. You're speaking out. We're here.
Is that translating into action, or is it just me being mad?
We believe it's translating into action. I think that each time this edition of this conference proves that more social justice topics are being brought into the agenda of psychedelic science. I've been coming to this conference since a long time ago. This is my third time here. The first time I was in 2011 and 2016, and this year I feel a different vibe. Perhaps a little bit going back, since Chacruna is about trying to translate academic knowledge and science to the people in ways that we can understand. I think what you said has a lot to do with the concept of intersectionality. So what is intersectionality? Can you give us a 101 quick on that concept?
Yeah, so that's when you have multiple stigmatized identities, and the and the combination of those two identities is very different from either of those separately, or even just either of those separately put together. It's like a whole different thing. And that's what I experience as a black woman. My experience is not the experience of white women. In fact, I find white women are often oppressive toward me and other black women. And so...
More than white men?
More than white men, believe it or not. Because you know what? At least white men know they don't get it. Whereas white women, they think they get it, and so they have this false sisterhood that they want to impress on me. They're like, oh, we know what it's like. I'm like, you don't know what it's like. You have no idea what it's like to be a black woman. Don't pretend you know you don't know. And, ask me. I'm happy to tell you.
Okay, perhaps we can call some other black woman, or I don't know if I'm entitled to say black woman as a non-black American. Okay, beautiful. All right, so we're here with
black woman.
All right, because I'm new in the U.S. and I just moved here, and I'm learning as well the language and the semantics of the social justice movement, and perhaps you can add your piece and just by start saying who you are and what you're doing here.
Sure. So hi everyone, my name is Jamilah George. I'm a clinical psychology PhD student at the University of Connecticut. Happy to be here at the conference. I'm one of the co-therapists on the MDMA assisted psychotherapy study, working with Dr. Williams on race-based trauma. And one thing that just occurred to me that you just said that I found fascinating, and I wish more people would do, is that you said, I'm new here, I'm learning, I am trying to adapt this language, and I think that is what's often missing from the conversation. Dr. Williams already said so many wonderful things that I would have said. But I think that this is one piece that would make the difference, that would help to bridge the gap between the experience of the black woman. And I shouldn't even say the black woman, because black women have a multiplicity of experiences. There's no such thing as the black experience, but black women and white women generally, I think, need to be bridged. And I think that starts from a place of cultural humility, which I think starts from the place that you just said. I'm learning. It's acknowledging that we don't know everything and that we need each other to understand how to work together. And it can't just always be one-sided. It can't always be black women at the door saying, hey, let us in. We want to be a part of the conversation. There has to be an acknowledgement that we're missing and a desire to bring us into the conversation.
Yeah, that's cool that you mentioned. We invited Dawn Davis. She's Native American, and she participated in psychedelic science. And there was this moment that a woman posed a question, and she said, "What can I, as an ecologist, do to you as a Native American in terms of, preserving peyote, and how can I advance this and help you? And using my knowledge, what can I offer?" And her answer was, "Well, it's nice that you ask, because nobody ever asked that before." So perhaps what we get here is a basic message. What about asking?
Yes.
And what about not speaking for other people?
Yes.
And letting those people speak for themselves? I've generally noticed that here in the U.S. sometimes people start, having arguments between each other, like let's say two super engaged American social justice activists, and then they start accusing, other people of not including either like indigenous or people of color, and they talk, accusing each other. But sometimes it seems to me that they're talking more about their own problems and using these other groups, to make accusations. Do you think that happens? Do you think that people kind of want to talk about others for others instead of asking others their viewpoints?
I certainly think that happens, and I think that one of the ways we can get to that is it's not only expecting marginalized communities to speak up, because I think if you look at any marginalized population, there are people speaking up. There are people, men, women, marching, fighting for these rights, right? Women in academia, writing books, coming to conferences, presenting research, starting studies. The work is being done, but I think that the difference is the person in a position of power, in this example, white women, need to actively engage other marginalized communities. There's a sense of autonomy and responsibility to the person who has privilege and power in these cases. So you're certainly right that it happens, and there needs to be, Dr. Williams mentioned this earlier, a kind of denouncing of one's privilege, and in so doing, actively bringing in these marginal groups so they can speak for themselves, and there's not these blanket statements about what minority experiences are, because there's so much variety in there, and I think we need to spend time really unpacking and doing due diligence to each experience.
Well, I love to, find these women that are full of passion and energy. It energizes me. It makes me feel good too. It's contagious in a good way. I just hope to maybe wrap up with, why do you do this work? What is your dream? What is the kind of world do you envision?
Oh my God! As soon as you said that, my heart just sank into my chest, because the reason I do this work is for the people, my people who I know are struggling and suffering with an array of mental illnesses, but in this case, race-based trauma, and don't have the space to talk about it, don't have a context that supports talking about it. We don't have a cultural vernacular with which to speak about our experiences. So I really want to help develop that language, because I do think it's different than the language that is used in white spaces, and help marginalized communities that I'm going to be a part of translate the work that we're doing so that it's applicable to them, and so that they recognize that they too deserve these evidence-based treatments that we have that are only really operating in white elite spaces, giving them access to that so that they can have better quality of life and stop suffering.
But why psychedelics? I mean, if you were just this random individual that happened to be tuning into this random exotic live interview, and you're a little bit skeptical about psychedelics, how do you speak to the people? Why psychedelics?
I would say skepticism is healthy. I would say if you're skeptical and you have questions, keep those questions and let those questions drive you to learn more about psychedelics and the experience. And I think that psychedelics specifically, and MDMA in this case, has a way of breaking down these barriers that we've placed within ourselves to stay safe, because we have no other choice but to learn how to survive. So we have these internal barriers that have barricaded all of the pain and all of the trauma and all of the sorrow, and finally having a way to let those experiences be released in a way that I think may not otherwise be released. And having two therapists in the room with you to help you make sense and make meaning of your experience. And you're going to have a lot of visions and thoughts, and you're going to see a lot of things. And so having two people in the room, two clinicians who are dedicated to your meaning-making experience and to your healing experience, I think is really unique in that way. And as a result, people of color can I believe people of color will greatly benefit from this treatment.
All right. Thank you very much. I just want to give a little bit, another round there. Everything is going on here. All these wonderful people from Copper Union here in Chacruna Net with Bia Labate, and these wonderful women and fellow human beings happy to dream of a better world. Keep on tuned, and we'll continue to blog. Big hug.